So I was born in like Metro Detroit, and my family grew up in Detroit. They had so much access to Motown at an early age. It was kind of cool. So they saw like the Supremes and Stevie Wonder and all these artists for like $5. It was like a Lollapalooza but of Motown. And so my aunt actually ended up going to shows all the time, and she ended up being friends with B.B. King. So ever since I was born, like, I always called him my uncle, he always called me his nephew, and I never really knew much of the difference. Like, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know how big of a deal it was because it was just sort of always around. So I think my aunt bought my first guitar, and I learned to play it and all that stuff. But as I sort of got to the age where you're writing and you're playing and doing all that stuff, I didn't want to like go the blues route because I was like, all my friends are playing rock and roll, all my friends are playing like emo stuff, all my friends are playing indie rock stuff. I'm gonna go that direction. And so I kind of just like steered clear of it because I also didn't know or didn't think that I didn't want to be compared. I didn't want the direct comparison for the guitar skills, I suppose. And I wasn't like a soloer or whatever. My main impetus to write music in the beginning was just to be heard and be understood. Like there's that like oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood. That's kind of like a life thing for me. So I think once I realized that you could write your feelings down, that changed the game.
Ain't no shame in feeling alone, damn near ready to give up the ghost. Ain't no shame believing in winning if losing is all that you know.
One thing to know about me is that I am strong-willed. Like if you ask my mom, she'll be like, oh yeah, like he's gonna do it, but he's gonna do it his way, and if you tell him he can't, he's gonna do it and then he's gonna stare straight at you and let you know like he did it. So I was always touring and traveling and promoting and trying to do the thing, and I learned so much in that process of touring and recording and making records and playing shows that no one came to and making albums that very few people would hear. So I kind of became a little bit more well-rounded, I suppose, just by necessity. There weren't too many people, kind of swooping in and being like, we're gonna make you a star, kid. Because probably even if they did, I probably wouldn't have wanted it that way anyways. It was a really cool thing when I was able to say I'm a full-time musician. In my 20s, I was spending a lot more time with my uncle, just, whenever he'd come by through shows and we talk and, we just talk about life. We talk about all that stuff. And for me, as I was becoming a musician and leaving college and like doing it for real, life hit in a more real way. And I think that once he passed away, the drive, all the sort of lessons that I kind of picked up along the way that were just kind of for fun ended up being a bit more of a guiding light for me. And so nowadays I felt like the blues, I have something more to say about the blues. I think the political climate in America, being black in America, I think all of these factors end up being like a piece of the blues. And so now I feel like I can see myself a little bit more in the blues, but I'm still not a blues guy per se. A lot of traditionalists wouldn't be like, that's not full blues. But I took all that indie rock storytelling and I made this sound that I just called dive bar soul. So to me, it's like the passion of the blues and some of the tonal stuff and some of the themes mixed with the indie rock storytelling. And I think, I don't know, it ended up making like a really cool genre that I made up. So for me, the title like Sinner-Songwriter is sort of coming from this indie rock place of like singer-songwriters. It's obviously a play on words, but the sinner part feels a little bluesier to me. You think of those old songs like Sinner's Prayer and like Lord, I done sinned, or Lord, if I done something wrong. So I think the accountability of the sinner who makes these songs. So for me to like blend those two things together feels like the perfect marriage that ends up making Dive Bar Soul. So then the pandemic happens, and that's something that's affected everyone across the world. And it was an interesting opportunity because you were no longer comparing yourself to everybody else and what they were doing. You were just kind of comparing yourself to yourself. And so now all of a sudden you've got all this time, I can't play any shows. And so instead of trying to go further, I ended up going deeper. So I ended up working on my voice, I ended up working on my songwriting, I ended up working on my guitar skills, recording and all that stuff. And as I went deeper, all the things that I was chasing ended up kind of coming to me. And that's where DixieFrog Records came in, and they said, you know, hey, we're a record label from France, do you want to make a record? And I was like, I'm sorry? Who's pranking me? And it turned out it was real. And so I spent the second half of the pandemic making the Sinner-Songwriter LP. And so that process was super fun. I was in the middle of the woods in a cabin in Wisconsin, recording my own, you know, guitars and vocals, and I had more time than I ever had to make a record.
So I've been on this song like a lover since my friends all found someone to hold.
I can't blame them for the life that I chose. Man, I'm young, but I'm trying to get grown.
So I had more time to be able to like play the bass part or make a backup vocal arrangement and be like, nah, I don't think that's it, and then come back to it the next day and change it. So that to me was such a cool experience, and it was sort of the ability to write these, set these things straight, you know, set the record straight that like I can sing this tune exactly how I want to sing it, and you know, these guitar parts are exactly what I want to be. And the other cool thing about this record was it ended up being collaborative. You know, it was my best friend from LA threw down some guitars, and my friend in North Carolina like arranged some backup vocals, and you know, I was able to go back into old sessions and be like, I can sing this better. It's a little bit gritty, it's a little bit, you know, rock and roll. It like reminds me of my time in Chicago, like hanging out in bars, and you know, it's just sort of, there's something about a dive bar to me that feels accessible. At the end of the day, I want my art and my music to be accessible to everyone. Like I don't want to be a museum artist with, you know, a painting on the wall and be like, oh, you don't get that music? It's like, no, I want it to be interesting and I want it to be good, but I want it to be for everyone, sort of like that $2 PBR or, you know, that $5 shot of whiskey.
You can bury me here, but I'll be damned if I die in this town. Can't go back.
Sinner-Songwriter is kind of this album that has been a long time coming. Some of the songs have been out already, some of the songs are brand new, but I was able to really refine what I do and present it to the world in a way that, had I still just been running, trying to tour, trying to play shows, I don't think I would have made the exact same record. And I can stand behind it and say this is, you know, a debut to the world that I'm incredibly proud of.